And welcome back to another episode of Knowledge. After a very extended hiatus, we are finally back. And just like the gap in the college football season, sometimes the break just makes you fonder and more excited for what's coming next. So, welcome back. And today, we've got a great show for you. We're going to be going through all our preseason top 10 rankings and the most exciting part, hot takes for the 2024 college football season. So, without further ado, let's just get right into it, right? So, I'm going to go through, here's how this is going to work. I'm going to go through my rankings, and then we'll compare with both my co-hosts here. And we're going to have just a great fight and debate and just riot over it, okay? So, starting off with my preseason top 10, all right? I'm going to go real original here for number one. We're going with Georgia, okay? I mean, unexpected, I know.
Wow.
But, yeah, I mean, you have to. You have to. It's just, number one, Georgia. Number two, Ohio State. Number three, Texas. I feel like everyone's kind of in common agreement across the college football world with that. Those are the three clear contenders who have had playoff appearances in the past and are set, return a lot of people and a lot of pieces, and just are really set to perform well this season. So, after that, contrary to most preseason opinions, I have Alabama at 4, actually. I think DeBoer is going to be really interesting there. And I mean, coming off a national title appearance with Alabama's talent, I think anything's possible, really. And I'm just going to keep picking Alabama as good until proven otherwise. And maybe that'll be the season. Who knows?
Good, yeah. Number 4, good.
Number 5, regarding Michigan, my number 5 team, the reigning national champions, I think
they don't have a QB, bro.
I think they're gonna
start one.
I think they're gonna
start
one.
Right?
Look at Ohio State.
They have like the most players.
Yeah, they have
a good Uber Eats driver at least.
They had like the highest amount of people drafted ever. They're all gone.
I think Sherrone Moore, I think he proved himself last year. He proved that I think Michigan is still going to be a very important factor in the Big Ten this year. So moving on, I got Ole Miss. Everyone expects them to really kind of take a jump this year after a great bowl win last year. Hopefully they kind of capitalize off that and keep moving forward. And number 7, of course, Oregon. A lot of hype around Oregon. Some people want to give them the national title already, basically, with how much hype they have. And I think they'll be good. They'll definitely be playoff contenders. I just am not sold on them yet. Number 8, of course, Penn State. I think in a kind of similar tier where they're very good and they always have a lot of hype around them, but they really just haven't made that next leap until like the national title contenders tier. Like these guys, they haven't made it up there yet. Number 9, I've got Missouri, who, we'll see what happens to Missouri. I think they had a really special year, and so now we're going to see this year if it is repeatable. We're going to see if it was just a fluke or are they actually going to succeed next year? Because we know their schedule is favorable, but for now, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and put them at number 9. And just rounding out the top 10, just to kind of throw them a bone, include them, I've got Notre Dame. With their schedule, I think they should expect a playoff appearance this year. And anything less would be an extreme disappointment for them. But it's going to be a great game, a great test, proving ground for both Notre Dame and Texas A&M in that first game, week 1. Now to compare mine, let's go with you, James. Who do you have for your top 10?
The superior rankings, you mean? So I mean, I can't really argue with Georgia, unanimous number 1. I think we probably all three have that, so they're my number 1. However, contrary to a lot, I have Texas at number 2, and that's coming from the biggest Texas hater there is. But I mean, you just look at it, and they were the one that actually made the playoffs last year. They still have a returning quarterback in Quinn Ewers, who's obviously a Heisman contender. They have so many other pieces around them that I think can keep them at a high level of success. The one thing I think they've lost is they lost their wide receivers, but they've got a lot of new recruits as well, young talent coming in that they've bought with all their Lambos. So they should have plenty of people to fill in for that. So I have them at number 2, and then Ohio State at number 3. Same reason Ohio State. I mean, they're good. Ohio State's got a lot of talent, but they're just not quite as proven. They lose the big game to Michigan, obviously. Then I have Alabama at 4. I think they're still going to be talented. I don't think they're going to stay that high probably for the rest of the year. But at the start of the season here, I'm going to keep them at 4. DeBoer's probably, they're still going to be a successful program. And then at 5, I've got Ole Miss. I'm really looking forward to Ole Miss season this year. I think they're going to be great because they've got. I'm a total Jackson Dart believer. I think he was great last year. They went out and got Krishan Judkins, which is a great pickup.
Oh, the way around. They went out and lost him.
They lost him again. Where'd he go?
Ohio State.
He went back.
He started at Ole Miss and went to Ohio State.
Which one's the one that went? The Ohio State guy that went to.
Nobody, because Ohio State's the greatest team of all time.
All right, nah, shut it. But I think Ole Miss is going to be good. I mean, they obviously had the bowl win against Penn State. That's kind of the biggest bright spot that's leading people to rank them high. But I think they've shown more, improving more than teams like Oregon. So I've got them ranked higher. Then I have Michigan. Once again, yeah, reigning national champs. They lost a lot of pieces, but they'll still be good, especially in the Big Ten. Then Oregon is my number 7. Haven't proven a lot, but have Dylan Gabriel coming in. A lot of big transfer pieces like Evan Stewart, who could be really good, could be kind of a letdown, is my opinion, but we will see. They have a lot around them, which is why there's so much hype, because if everything plays out right, they're going to be a great team. Number 8, I actually have Notre Dame. I think with Riley Leonard, he's going to be probably an improvement as long as his leg is healed and ready to go. They've got some additions with some wide receivers, all kinds of stuff. So I think they can be better, and hopefully for them, they can, if they can win the big games, then they can get into that playoff spot because they were close last year with like Ohio State. People don't realize how close they were, where they won some of those, and so they've got the talent to be an upper team.
They have it in them.
Number 9, Mizzou. I put them here. I think they're number 9 team right now, but I kind of agree with what you said, where maybe they might not stay there. They're kind of the dream team last year, where I think they'll be good this year, but I don't see them making the playoffs or anything like that. I think they'll kind of just end up like an average team.
And let's not forget their schedule last year. I mean, very, very forgiving.
That's a lot.
Now you're coming into the new reformatted SEC scheduling. Mizzou could be one of those teams that takes a much harsher beating from that schedule. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I
think they'll maybe go 8-4, 9-3, but at least they still have a lot of good returning talent. Obviously, Brady Coach, so it's like they'll be decent. And then rounding out, I've got Penn State number 10. A lot of people have them probably a lot higher, but I can't really rank them high. They've never proven anything. They've lost every single big game they play in, and I think Drew Aller. I mean, people had real high expectations last year for Drew Aller. He obviously failed those. He failed those, and people are hyping him up again this year. And I've seen him play at this point. I really don't think he's going to be the guy for them. He'll be average, like he's not horrible, but he's not going to be that guy to push them past these other great teams.
You would think Penn State fans have finally learned the lesson of this is our year. No, this is our year. No, this is the year for what, the past 7 or 8 years?
Yeah. They'll beat up on bad teams and then lose to every good team.
They beat up on the Iowas.
Now, they're probably one of the ones that will benefit the most from the new Big Ten schedule, where you don't have to play that Michigan, Ohio State every year. So we'll see how that works out for them. If they can actually just go 10-2 and they're probably in. So we'll see if they can do it. All right.
What the big dog go?
Let's see your takes, Charlie.
All right. So obviously, so mine's pretty basic. So I'm gonna go a little faster, but you got Georgia at 1. But so Ohio State 2. The thing is that Ohio State is the more talented roster. They have the better roster than Georgia, and that's just true. But they don't have proven QB, so that's why I have them at 2.
Well, that, and I mean, Ryan Day,
Ryan
he hasn't won the
Uber
big
Eats
games,
Day,
so
Kyle McTurd. So that's the guys.
You can't count on
So
them to make that leap.
3, you got Texas. I mean, these guys already explained it. 4, Oregon. Those are, I think, the elite 4 teams. Their championship. They laugh because they don't know ball.
Because Oregon.
Because
which year last year is those?
Because all these 4 were.
If
just
you look at everyone's top 4,
teams,
everyone has those 4 teams. Okay, 5, we're gonna go Alabama. I mean, they don't have some coach, but still Bama. 6, Ole Miss. I'm not gonna put them ahead of Bama until they beat Bama, which will not happen. 7, Michigan. They have still an elite defense, but they don't have a QB. 8, Penn State. They're just there. 9, Notre Dame. They'll be okay, but they won't win any big games. And then 10, Missouri. I only put them there because I couldn't think of any other teams.
Notre Dame's lucky they don't really have any big games, though.
They'll lose the somewhat big games they have.
All right. Now, so those are our preseason rankings. So here's next we're going to get into the most interesting part of the show, our hot take. I'm going to go first, and we're going to just explain them and debate them and See, the way I view hot takes when I pick mine, just before I go into them, is I think the perfect hot take has to have that little bit of believability. You can't just go out like a lot of these ESPN guys go and just say the stupidest thing you can think of and just yell at each other about it for an hour. But they have to have just that. They don't need much, but that little bit of believability where you could think like they happen. That like that's a shot. It's not likely, but it's a shot. So let's start. This is actually one of my spicier ones here. So let's get into it. The Iowa Hawkeyes, famed with the worst offense in college football, make the college football playoff.
It's such a homer take, my man.
Is it? Absolutely.
Like I see,
this guy's off the rails.
I
Absolutely.
see like where it can happen, but it won't.
So, an explanation. Iowa's schedule, very, very favorable for when looking at the Big Ten. So, we got Washington, you got UCLA.
Sucks.
Yeah, UCLA kind of sucks. That'll be fine. The Ohio State game, that's a loss. Okay, sure. But outside of that, Iowa, there's a good chance Iowa's favored in every game except that.
Well, the way I see it,
I mean,
I think their shot going in is they got to go 11-1, but they got to keep the Ohio State game good. Like within 20,
you have to keep it respectful,
within 20 would be
yes.
really nice.
you can't have it be just a demo.
And then I think
The
they sneak
committee
in.
will see that schedule. You know, they'll say, "Oh, they lost to every good team they play," so they have to make these believable. They have to show that they've improved and can compete.
And a lot of
if
it's
they
kind of
play.
random too. Like it would help Iowa greatly if, say, like Washington turns out to be decent, Wisconsin turns out to be decent.
Yeah.
Stuff like that could give them a huge boost. And we don't really know that right now. There's
I-
a lot of unknowns on their schedule, so
Yeah.
it's just kind of hard to say right now with like strength of schedule how that's going to sort out. But all I'll say is this: look, Iowa had just historically last year, national punchline, the worst offense in all of college football. It made you want to just gouge your eyes out every time you watched them, and yet they went 10-2 in the regular season somehow, some way. And so
My belief with this is like, is it going to be that much better this year? It'll be better, but how much better?
And a lot of that depends on
With
Tim Lester's offense and quarterback Cade McNamara.
yeah, that's my. It's all on Cade for me because when he played last year, he wasn't that outstanding, and after being injured again, he's really going to be hobbling around. So I don't know how great he's going to be. He'll be good. He'll be better than Miles, better than Deacon. But it's not like they went out and got some big weapons at wide receiver or anything. So will there be that big of an improvement where they can make the jump? I don't know.
And yet that's the thing. How much better do they really have to be? Say if Iowa somehow manages to get the
Here
80th,
goes yapping again.
the 80th best offense in college football. The 80th best. I mean, we're returning so many defensive stars. They're going to have one of the best defenses in the nation again. That's just taken for granted. But if they actually get that offense to where they like can get these things called offensive yards and like touchdowns or even field goals, they couldn't even get
Field
much of
goals
that
are
last
great.
year. If they can score, I mean, if they can score 15 to 20 points a game, that'd be a huge improvement. Basically, my thoughts on this is, look, Iowa 11-1 you're in. That's pretty much guaranteed. But if Iowa goes 10-2, they'd be on the bubble, certainly. To get in, I would say they'd have to go 10-2 and look good while doing it, essentially. They have to look like they actually have a working offense and can compete to some degree with, like in the Ohio State game. If they compete there, if they make it interesting and go 10-2, I'd say they stand a pretty good shot getting in as an 11 and 12 seed. And so I really don't think this is incredibly far-fetched. I think it's unlikely, but I think it's possible. So we'll see how it works out. But on to you, James. What's your first hot take?
First hot take kind of goes hand in hand with my ranking, so this one's not too crazy, but I think both Oregon and Penn State are going to underperform by a lot. Like, I don't see these teams, I don't see either of them making the playoffs, first of all. Because Oregon, between the Big Ten, I mean,
That Big Ten's gonna be a different adjustment.
they're probably third best team at best, you know? So, and like I said earlier, I think Drew Aller is going to underperform big time. I don't think he's going to be good. Dylan Gabriel, I think, is much better. But, I mean, they had Bo Nix last year, and he didn't really seem to do much for him in the end.
He didn't seem to do much.
Yeah, he did a lot.
They lost
Where'd
2
that get
games.
him?
The team was in the title.
But where'd that get him to?
But yeah.
Did they make the playoffs? And that was with the easier.
They lost
that was
to
with
only
the
Washington.
easier Pac-12
And yet,
schedule.
if we look
Now
at
that
this,
They will be in the playoffs.
If
They'll
we
be
look
in the
at
Big
this-
Ten title.
Washington, let's look at Oregon's schedule last year. Looking back at the end of the season, so not counting who was ranked when they played them, because sure, we can count Colorado as
Colorado's
Come on.
ranked.
Yeah.
And Utah
Okay,
was
let's
ranked.
count how good these teams actually were at the end
Colorado
of the
is
season.
good.
Let's.
They're an elite team.
Utah
let's
is
look.
their good win. That's it.
Their best. They
Oregon
lost.
State.
Oregon State is not that
Liberty.
good.
Oregon State, give them that.
Liberty is not a
Liberty's
good win.
undefeated.
All right, all right.
None of those are that
Oregon
good.
lost twice to the one elite team they played.
By
So-
combined 6 points.
And yet they lost both times. So, all I'm saying about Oregon, and I agree with you here, is that I think they still have something to prove. I think I'm not going to pencil them in as just an immediate Big Ten national champion. I think they still have a lot to prove before they can
Yeah.
truly join college football's elite. And I think you stand
When
a
I
really
see
good point
them,
there.
They're the
lose
second
big
best
games
team in the
that-
Big
when
Ten.
I see it, I'll believe it. They haven't won. They haven't
They're
beaten
step
anyone.
above. They're step
Could
above.
they be great?
They have the
Certainly.
talent.
I'm just not going to believe it yet. Yeah.
I mean, just everyone's
They're an
putting
elite
it
team.
into saying, oh, they have what they need, but they had what they needed last year, and they did not win the games that mattered to get them there. You know, they have like Evan Stewart this year, but I think Evan Stewart's also going to be a letdown because that's all he ever. It's not even player. He's got the best. He's an insane athlete. He's got so much
Wow,
talent, but
there
it's
goes.
his mindset. He's not. He doesn't work hard. I mean, he quit halfway through his high school senior year because he didn't want to play anymore, and he did the same thing at A&M quite a few times where he just opted out of regular season games. And so I think as soon as Oregon starts to take a downturn, he will too. He's literally like a fair weather player. He's almost like a bandwagon player. It's insane to be that good and have that
That's
mentality.
like a minute
But
long
that's
yeah for one player.
And
Hey,
Penn
I-
State.
I'll remember to edit that
It's a
out.
hot take, but we'll see what happens with it. I'm just saying, I don't think he's going to be that
Penn
good.
State is difficult to judge underperformance, but I'd say anything less than a playoff performance and a playoff appearance, and Penn State fans are severely disappointed this year.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it turns out. But let's move on to you, Charlie. What's your first
For
thought?
my hot take, I think Washington struggles to get to the bowl game. Similar to TCU last year, went 5-7. I think 6-6, I predict, but 5-7 I think is very possible. Just tough
Ooh.
schedule, and they lose 21 out of 22 starters. They'll be an okay team, like a 6-6 team.
I don't know, man. That's missing a bowl. I don't think I could see him. I'd say if I had to pick, I'd say about 7-5. I could see
6-6
Washington this year.
is my guess, but I think 5-7
Yeah.
is more likely than 7-5 definitely.
I like what they did getting that Arizona coach, but they lost so many players, and joining the Big Ten makes it really hard for them to have a great year, and so they're going to be worse.
They also have to play.
I don't know about missing a bowl, but they're going to be a step down for sure. I agree with that.
All right, interesting. Well, moving on. Let's get into the next one.
Oh boy. Here we
So,
go. This is random.
After just haters after haters and haters, this year Dabo Swinney proves all the haters, all the media, everyone bowing down and worshiping the transfer
I
portal
lose to Georgia.
wrong.
For 21.
Wrong by making the playoff and not only making the playoff, but getting the number 3 overall seed. Okay, Clemson wins the ACC, which let's honestly look at is not a difficult thing to do for them. I mean,
That's
shouldn't be.
not the one thing
They're
they
really-
have going for 'em.
Their really only competition should be Florida State here, and Florida State loses a lot of talent, like we may get into later. And they really, I mean, looking at those conference auto bids, you're going to have Big Ten, SEC, of course, is 1 and 2. But after that, I think Clemson will be better than whoever comes out of the Big 12.
Will they win the ACC? Because look, you got to look at it.
Who else?
The ACC.
Don't win the ACC.
It's like
It's
what
a
teams
horrible
did they
conference.
lose to last year that were worse than them?
Last year was
barely.
one of
I mean, they
Clemson's.
lose to like South Carolina. Didn't they lose to like NC State or like one of the Carolinas? Like
That's the NC State.
Yeah.
Last year,
Yeah.
everyone lauded about it was one of Clemson's worst
Yeah.
years ever, and they still won 9 games. It's like,
I mean, they're in the ACC.
it's still not
Honestly,
saying,
9 games
don't,
might
don't
be
look
enough
at that
to win you the
ACC
ACC
schedule and
this
say
year.
they're gonna win because they're so much better than all these teams. They will drop some of these games to these inferior teams.
but that might still be enough because you won't have an undefeated Florida State going bulldozing through the conference now.
I mean, I agree. There's definitely a high chance where if they have good quarterback play,
Well,
Yeah,
that's
but
the
that's the
question.
biggest
We'll see
thing.
how Klubnik
you
does.
know, Klubnik is not that good.
Florida State is DJ Ubadugi.
We'll see.
Yeah,
That'll be a fun
neither of them are good, and we all know Clemson doesn't have any other transfer portal additions to help them, so it's going to be about the same as last year. And is that good enough to have them get to make the playoffs, let alone the 3 seed? I don't think so. But
I don't know. Well, what do you have then?
well, this one's pretty similar to the Iowa one. I have to say it's a hot
Oh,
take,
don't listen.
but I have Texas A&M making the college football playoff. Now, this is only if it all depends on the new 12 team, what is good enough to make the playoffs. Because I see them going 9-3. And that, depending on the situational, that can make the playoffs or that might not. It's hard to know. So, but it's all based on the schedule they have. You know, I don't think they're going to be an insane team. They're not going to be one of those top tier contenders. But with this easy schedule they have, they can easily go 9-3. And every single hard game they have is at home. They have LSU at home, Missouri, Notre Dame, and Texas. All those are at home games, very winnable when you factor in Kyle. Except for the problem is like teams like Texas at the end of the year. You know, that's going to be such a hard game. Like they'll drop those. You know, but they can if they will lose even the big games like Notre Dame, Texas, and maybe a random one. You know, 9-3 can get them into the playoffs with a good enough showing. So I think as long as there's not the threshold isn't higher for the playoffs, we'll see with how many good teams there are. I think they go 9-3 and possibly make the playoffs.
I think to make the playoffs at 9-3, I think they'd have to be either one of the best 9-3 teams we've seen in recent years, or just have an extreme case of SEC bias.
I think
which
they need to beat one of Notre Dame or Texas.
They'd have to have one of the best wins and some really close losses. But we'll get into this later in one of my other takes. They'd have to be probably I would guess that 4 SEC teams get into the playoff this year. Mm-hmm. They'd have to be probably in the top 4 in the SEC, which you got Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, Bama, LSU. I mean, that's tough competition there. We'll see how it turns out, though. Charlie, what do you got?
My next hot take is that Florida goes 7-5, which would be impressive, and makes the Citrus Bowl with the 7-5. So they will have. It's not crazy.
That's 7-5 team everything.
They're an okay team. They get
build
to walk.
a statue of Billy Napier.
They get to walk, and because of their ranked wins, they'll make the Citrus Bowl as the 5th best SEC team.
I know, but I mean, you look at that back end of their schedule, and I genuinely think they're gonna
go
winless.
They just need to win.
They have to have a strong
one or
start
two
to
of
the
those.
season.
They have
to beat Texas A&M. They have to win all those starting games if they want to change.
And those aren't easy start. They're easier games, but they're far from easy too. It's ridiculous.
Even their non-con that are normally like SEC, the cupcake teams that are like some random ones. Even those they're playing like UCF, which is like that's harder than those teams. I'm not saying they'll lose.
Now it's technically a power. Well,
yeah.
Big 12 matchup, so it's a power conference if we still count them as a power conference. Who knows now? But I mean, that'd be incredible if they were able to do that.
7-5 would be so high.
That'd be incredible. But now, moving on, this is an interesting one, I think. Tell me what you think. So, Michigan does not take the step back that people think they will this year. They beat Ohio State to finish the regular season, make the Big Ten title, and with that, make the college football playoff. Look, had Sharon Moore not taken over at the end of last season, I would not be anywhere near as confident as I am with this. But he's already beaten Ohio State once. I mean, look at this. And we talk about, Michigan, they lose so much talent. Well, is Michigan really a team that needs just the top tier talent to succeed? I mean, look at the way they play. Did they need the most incredible quarterback play? I mean, they had several games where J.J. McCarthy hardly threw a pass.
They don't have a QB. It's not they have a bad QB. They don't have a QB.
But
they're going to run triple option.
They don't need
the
most top tier talent. And I think they really have Ohio State's number these past few years. I'm not saying
Ohio State loses, bro.
I'm not saying they'll be undefeated, but I think they will surprise a lot of people and remain an elite team.
I can agree with part of this hot take. I genuinely think there's a good chance that Michigan beats Ohio State. It's in their heads at this point. Ryan Day, he hasn't beat Michigan. And whether or not the rest of it is true, they make the playoffs, win the Big Ten, all that. I don't know.
Well,
I can totally see them.
I have them making the Big Ten title, not winning the Big Ten title.
Yeah, I think they'll take a small step back, but they still have a lot of talent. They still have good defense, everything. I think they'll beat Ohio State.
This is the idiocy of this new schedule. Maybe they'll beat Ohio State and then just play them again next week in the Big Ten title.
They play Oregon in the Big Ten title. There's Oregon's favored to beat Ohio State.
Yeah, we'll see about that.
Because that means everything. Yeah.
But I mean, hey, we'll see. I'm just throwing it out there, and I wouldn't be surprised if this happened. Actually, I really wouldn't.
I won't be totally surprised.
I really wouldn't.
Ohio State just has a lot more elite talent than Michigan this year.
Well, they've had a lot more elite talent than Michigan every year the past couple of years, so we'll see how it works out. All right, let's move on to you, James. Who you got now?
Colorado. You know where this is.
Oh no, here we go.
Colorado, I have the opposite stance of him. I guarantee. I haven't seen his hot takes, but I guarantee he's got something saying Colorado's gonna win it all or something. But I have them underperforming because I mean it's gonna be a similar situation to last year, and I don't think that they're gonna be that great. I think they're gonna be better. I think like 7-5 is the peak. Like peak.
Or 7-5 would be hype.
I don't even think they'll be better.
Yeah,
I don't
like,
know.
that's what I'm saying. Like,
Have you seen
that's
that?
tough. I mean, their line, their defense, like all this, they still have so many glaring issues, and I think they have a pretty decently hard schedule from what I can remember. I mean, all their players, got to be too busy going to Shadur's rap concerts and whatnot. So I don't know, but it's they're so publicized and everything, like I say, they're playing for clicks.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But I do think they're going to improve. It's just, are they really going to go from, blowing leads to Stanford and whatnot to winning, like, say, the Big 12? It's not going to happen.
I mean, look, Colorado, if you've kind of followed them in the offseason, which I'm sure a lot of people have, they're a very publicized team. Colorado has some deep, deep culture problems. And it's very clear that they're a very individualistic team and that people like Shadur Sanders really more care about themselves and their draft stock than the team's success. I mean, that's obvious. Anyone can see that by looking at it. And you just can't win a lot of games playing that way. It's that simple. And if you look on their schedule, I mean, I don't see 6 wins on that schedule. No way.
No.
I mean, look, they lost to Stanford last year. They're just
It was a bad game.
yeah.
They
It wasn't.
were
Yes,
up
it was a
20,
bad
they
game.
were up
It was a
like-
horrible game for them.
They're up like 3
Yes.
something to like 3. It's worse than bad game.
Look, they have some really problems, and they just are incredibly undisciplined. One of the most undisciplined teams I've ever seen, and I just don't see any of that being fixed while Deion Sanders is at the helm. And honestly, I don't think he'll be at the helm for long. I think he'll jump ship
it
as soon
might
as he
get
can.
fixed, but they're not going to turn around this fast. It takes time to build a team, and when they're changing, when they're basically have
Deion only cares about Deion.
they basically have this plug-and-play roster he's just taking everyone out and replacing
Well,
them
as soon as you
every
get the
year.
injuries,
It's very
too,
hard
they have
to
no
build.
depth.
It's very
They have
hard
no
to build
depth at all.
something when you take your players out and get rid of them and get new ones every single year. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. Charlie, do you want to just get into your next one about Colorado?
Well, okay, so
Let's just
Colorado,
keep talking
they
about
won't, they won't be great, but they do bulk up the line a little bit. I like Deion. I think he's a funny guy. So
Yeah.
I'm a supporter, and they're in the most horrible conference, that's the Power Conference, so they will make the Big 12 title is my hot take. I don't think they have to be all that good. I don't think they have to be all
They don't
that
have
good.
to be all that good, but they have to be a whole lot better than I think they'll be.
I think
They'll,
it'll be
they'll
better
get
than-
some
I
luck.
think it'll be
They'll
better
sneak
than
in.
Utah, Oklahoma State,
Kansas
Arizona,
State.
K-State.
They'll get
Kansas
some luck.
even, I
They'll
mean.
upset some of them at
No.
home, just like when they almost beat Arizona last year.
Almost
lost by 3
doesn't mean
points.
anything.
Well,
I think we
it
could
doesn't
see.
mean
I think we could see it like
they have
kind
an
of
elite.
similar
They have an
height.
elite QB, and they have the best player in college football.
They could start maybe like 2-0 or something. Get that Nebraska win or something like
They
that.
have the best
3-0.
single player in college football.
I mean,
And
Nebraska
get some hype again.
Nebraska
and for
could
people
be
to
better
realize
this
they're not a
year,
good
so it's
team
hard to
again.
know, but
Yeah, well, we'll see how it turns out. All right, my next one's an interesting one. I think this could be really interesting this season. So, a playoff team seeded 10, 11, or 12 will make the college football playoff semifinals. So, kind of similar situation to the NFL. We just see teams getting hot at the right time in the playoffs, and that just really propelling forward. I could see a team like that no one thinks about this year kind of turn into like the Cincinnati Bengals that one year in the NFL, and just kind of surprising everyone really. And I think that's what's gonna, because we're seeing college football model after itself after the NFL more and more, and we're gonna see how that works out this year. And we're gonna see something like this, kind of one of those Cinderella teams. That's what happens when you get big playoffs. It happens every big playoff. You get something.
I agree with this hot take 100%. I mean, especially now with the expanded playoffs, when you're going to have teams playing in, their own stadiums, I think there's going to be another level of mayhem, and things are going to get it's going to be unpredictable once again, which is nice.
The Cinderella team, like Tulane, will be down like 49-0 at half against Alabama.
But
I'm
it's
not
gonna
saying
be-
it'll be
it'll
a
be a
group of
five.
five. It doesn't need to be a group of
But
five.
say an SEC team
Say
that
like
has
Ole Miss
like a
is
couple,
seeded,
yeah,
like,
a
number
couple
11.
losses.
Or
So
yeah.
they're
Like a 10
lower
to,
down.
a 10
they
to
could-
Ole
they could
Miss
be
at number
one of those
11
good teams.
goes and knocks off like some high ranked like I don't know Ohio State or Michigan or like something like that. Who knows?
Clemson, if they have the 3 seed. Like
Well, yeah, it's a possibility. It's totally a possibility. So I really think that's gonna happen to one team. Now the rest will probably just be blowouts like normal, but I think we could get one or two maybe special cool games.
Mhm.
We'll see what happens. All right, who you got next, James?
All right, so this next one's kind of 2 things, I guess. But I have Garrett Nussmeier and Nico Iamaleava
Wow.
having.
Way to pronounce this.
It's hard to say, all right? I get it eventually. It's like Tua. Once I start playing more, we'll get it. But I have them both disappointing in their first year in the SEC. And first, I want to get out. Disappointing doesn't mean bad. I think they'll both be good quarterbacks. But from what I've seen from LSU and Tennessee fans, they are hyping these people up so much, both based on their bowl games and just overall talent level. And I don't think they're going to be that insane, especially in their first year. Garrett Nussmeier, obviously, he played against Wisconsin in his bowl game, and he didn't really even look that great from what I watched. And so I think he's going to struggle, especially where, they needed a Heisman quarterback last year, and they still only lost all those games because of their defense. And their defense will probably improve some, but he's going to have to be the player that elevates that team. He can't bank on the team to make him better. So I don't think he's going to be that in his first year. Now for Nico, I think he'll be better probably. But he is a similar situation where he's going to be playing hard teams, and in his one bowl performance against Iowa, which is what a lot of the hype is coming behind,
21 of those points were gifted by
he
Iowa.
was mostly gifted a lot of those opportunities with some.
Granted, he
some
was
turnovers.
playing Iowa's defense.
But
too,
he played
so
well.
we'll
I
say
think
that.
if I had to pick who would be better, it'd be Nico. But I don't think he's going to be insane first year like some of these Tennessee people.
And for Tennessee to say make the SEC title or something like that, something like crazy for them to really surprise everyone, they would need Nico Iamaleava to just be an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
He would need to be up, and they could do. I think Tennessee could do it and really surprise everyone
good
if he
but
is
he's
the
not gonna
elite
be there
quarterback
in
that
his
they
first
think he'll be. And
He's
maybe
not
he
there
is,
yet.
maybe not. At this point, we're just gonna have to wait and see with him. And with
He's
both these
played
guys,
one
really.
game, so.
All right.
Okay, am I up next?
Oh yeah.
My next hot take is that Missouri, the Uber Eats Missouri, the team that's always an Uber Eats team, except for last year, goes 7-5. They return back to their Uber Eats done. That's what I'd say.
Okay.
I don't know.
What do you qualify?
What do you think they're gonna be?
Well-
What do you think they're gonna be?
They'll be 7, so they'll be okay. They got pretty lucky last year.
What's your record prediction?
My record prediction is 7-5.
7-5.
7-5. So they lose their tough games.
I can agree with some of that. I don't know about 7-5. I see them going probably 8-4, maybe 9-3. But they have a harder schedule this year. Obviously, last year it was easy, so they'll probably lose a lot of those big games. But they'll still be decent.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know. I can totally see it. I don't think Missouri will be an elite team this year. I think their probably ceiling will be maybe 10 too. 11-1.
They're
That would be a
Forest,
big
dude. They're
stretch.
Forest doing 10.
But
They're Forest doing 10.
well, I'm not gonna go that
A
far.
couple years ago, they were
But-
like 2-10.
Yeah, no, it's
They
impressive
still have
what
Brady
they've
Cook.
done
They
with their
still have
program and
Brady
really been
Cook.
able
They
to
still
build
have
it up.
talent on
But
that team.
I just don't. I'm not sold on them. Not sold on them at all.
Right, no.
Like I was saying earlier when I was going through my rankings, we're gonna find out this year. Was it just a fluke year that they had an easy schedule for, or are they actually here to stay? Yes, exactly.
They had good wins and then it all fell apart. But they do keep Brady Cook. That's the biggest thing they have going for them.
All right. Now my last hot take is not even really a hot take, but something I definitely want to discuss. I've been theorizing about this for a while now, so this
Theorizing.
yeah.
I'm theorizing.
Okay, I've been
Or
thinking.
maybe.
Does that sound better to you? I've been thinking. I've been like.
Yeah.
All right, so I've been thinking about this for a while now, and I've been saying it for a while too, where everyone's gonna hate this, but the Big Ten and SEC, college football is becoming more and more just a minor league NFL. And I think the long-term trajectory for the college football playoff is for these two leagues just kind of break apart and go on their own, and you're going to just see it turn into the NFL playoffs. You're going to have the AFC, NFC, Big Ten, SEC, and they're just going to go, and then the champions of each will play each other in a college football Super Bowl, and that'll be it, and that'll be the NFL, and everyone will hate it.
Big 12 league, UFL.
So, yeah, and those are going to turn into that. And that'll probably be where real, quote unquote, real college football is played too, because this will just be the NFL at this point. But we're going to see that reflected this year, unfortunately. And everyone's going to get mad, but that's just going to happen. So 8 out of the 12 playoff teams will be Big Ten SEC teams.
Well, that's a cold take.
I can see it.
It's
Yeah.
not,
That's
it's
a cold
it's
take.
lukewarm. It's lukewarm.
Luke cold.
Lukewarm, all right? Now,
Icy take.
all right, well, it's going to be an icy,
All right.
awesome take. So,
That's so stupid.
all right, well, whatever.
That's so stupid.
Just let me talk about this, okay?
I'm gonna use that in a future video.
All right, so I could see definitely 4 Big Ten teams, 4 SEC teams making. And then your other 4 are going to be ACC champ, Big 12 champ, Notre Dame, and your Group of 5 team. And then that'll be it. So it's really just going to be a competition between the Big Ten and the SEC. And that's just how it's going to be. And it's going to be depressing, but that's how college football is now. And I think we're going to have to accept that.
Alright.
But,
Well, for my last one, instead of an icy awesome take, I have a spicy awesome take here. I have Arizona making the college football playoffs, so obviously winning the Big 12. But I think
Big
I
12,
really like what
I think
they
incredibly
did
difficult.
last year. They've got great offense. They showed out in some hard games, and obviously won the games that they needed to go 10-3. Like obviously the game against Oklahoma stands out as a great win. Their biggest thing they have against them is obviously losing their coach. But I think they have their new coach is good, and it shouldn't affect them too much, especially when they're playing in the Big 12. So they're not gonna have that much competition. I think they're probably going up against Utah for that championship, and that's depending on if Cam
it's
Rising.
funny, 2 Pac-12
That-
teams.
that's-
in the Big 12, so
That's depending on Cam Rising being alive, also. So there's a lot that
Bro,
can
he's
change.
senile at this point.
He's an old man
I
playing
mean,
football.
so
Well,
I see Arizona getting that Pac-12 or Big 12.
Bro, not even
Yeah,
back
who
to
knows?
Getting that Big 12 win, going to the college football playoff, and maybe causing chaos. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the Big 12 race, I think, really is wide open compared to all the others. You know, you have your Georgias, Ohio State's your favorites in the other conferences, but really, it's anyone's guess for the Big 12, and I think that's going to make it really interesting, actually. So we'll see what happens from it. But, yeah, Charlie, you got one more take for us?
My last one take, we kind of already talked about this for a while. It's not really too hard, but I don't think the Big 12 will have any top. I'll go Big 12 and ACC. I don't think they'll have a top 15 team.
And ACC.
Both
wow,
them.
that's interesting.
I don't
So
think
at
either
the
of them will. At the end of the
at
year, I don't think
year,
they'll have a
top
top 15
I mean, it's reasonable. Yeah.
I mean, we'll see. I think the ACC will have one. Big 12, certainly possible. I mean, you're going to have Utah, I think, would be in that 10 to 15 range.
I think they'll lose a couple.
But who knows? What am I?
By the time their players
No,
are
but I can see where you're coming from at least.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. All right, that's gonna do it for this episode of Knowledge. Now we'll record next whenever I feel like it.
No, we recorded in July win totals.
Win totals.
We are back with win totals.
We'll
Stay
get
tuned.
through our win totals and
we
Smash that like
as
button.
well.
Smash that subscribe button.
yeah, and we'll see you guys.